Hey guys, Sandy here, and today I am playing with some Confessions of a Paper Addict cut files. Now I have the balloon border, and I also have the stitched balloons, but I just cut them out as balloons. I did not create it as a stitched thing, just because I wanted the balloons. I have a photo of a retreat that some friends and I went to, a couple 6x6 paper pads, and a bunch of sequins. So let's see what I can do. Okay, so the first thing I did was grab my mini Fiskars mat, and this is the mat that I use when I'm backing cut files. So it can get gluey and yucky, and I don't have to worry about my main surface mat feeling that at all. Now I thought that this balloon background paper would have been perfect to mat my photo on, but once I got my photo on there, you really couldn't see the balloons whatsoever, and you totally lost the fact that they were balloons. So I decided to use this kind of gradient blue background instead, and decided to use these balloons as something to back the cut files with. Now normally I'm okay if you don't get to truly see like what the pattern is on a pattern paper if I'm using it as a mat, but this time the whole specific purpose of using this pattern paper was because it had balloons on it. So that's why I decided to change it up and use it as a backer to part of the cut file instead of the photo mat. Now with this cut file, and as I was backing it and building it, I did use a lot of washi tape on the back, and that's just because of the thinness of the cut file and kind of like the square shape of it. I just wanted to ensure that I would get a little bit more rigidity with it while I was flapping the cut file around all over my table. Now here's the part, the fun part, backing the cut file. So I'm not going to have video of the entire cut file being backed because I did do a couple different techniques with it, but there's a little taste of everything I did on here. So if you just want to see the layout, don't worry, you're not going to watch me back cut files for the entire video. So as you can see, I'm doing the trim around scissors method where you trace it with a pencil and you trim around, and then you just add some glue to the back of the cut file, pop down your little piece that you cut apart, and voila, you have backed your first cut file. Super easy to do, you guys. Okay, and I am using Nuvo Deluxe adhesive. This is by far my favorite liquid glue that is out there. It really just doesn't take a whole lot of time to hold on to the, it doesn't take a whole lot of time to make your pieces adhere together. And it also dries matte. So if you get some that like squooshes out of there, dries matte, so you don't really need to worry about it. So there we go. We have the balloon paper actually in the balloon so that you can see and tell that it is a balloon. So that makes my little heart happy. And now I'm just trying to figure out which sequins I want to do, because I'm going to, of course, use some sequins with my cut files. It's one of my most favorite things to do. I just really, really love gluing sequins down and having a cut file over top of them. It's like one of my favorite things to do with cut files. So here I am. I traced and cut out the shape that I was going to use. And now I am trying to figure out what sequins to use. So I have a whole bunch of sequins from Spiegelmom Scraps. And if you don't know about Spiegelmom Scraps, you should. Her mixes are beautiful. They just really are. They're just gorgeous. Her mixes also coordinate with many of the new collections that come out. So that's always exciting because now you don't have to go hunt and find sequins that match because Jody does it for you. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to be using Dose of Reality, and I also want to use Vintage Dowry, but for Dose of Reality, this is the one that I'm going to be gluing down the sequins to the paper. So I dump out the sequins in my little sequin bowl, and I highly suggest, if you use sequins, if you like sequins, I highly suggest getting yourself a little bowl, a little dish that you can dump out and work with. Of course, you can dump them straight onto your work surface, but honestly, the little dish makes it so much easier. I am using a jewel picker here, And the only thing I am doing is putting the glue down on the paper, and not a super, super huge gloppy mess. It's kind of thin. And then I'm picking up the flat sequins that I want to use and placing them down. And then there we go. It is completely covered. Some of the sequins do hang off of the paper, and that's completely okay. And then I'm just testing it out there and seeing how that's going to look. So I add some more of my adhesive to the cut file, and also the little bit of photo mat that's back there, because that's going to help adhere it as well. This is where I'm going to use my scissors to trim off the little bits that are hanging over too much. So if the sequin is hanging over so much that you can see it through the outside edge of the cut file, I'm going to trim that down, but otherwise I'm not even going to worry about it, because it is under and you're not going to be able to see it whatsoever. So why should I worry about it, right? Right. So I added a little bit more washi tape there, and that's just, again, to give it a little bit more stability. Trimmed off a little bit of sequin that was still poking out, and there we go. Now my cut file is really starting to come to life, because I am backing it with a mix of patterned papers. The patterned papers, some of them have metallic, like this has gold foil on it. I've got the sequins going on. Like, basically I am just rocking and rolling with my cut file. I'm in the groove now, and I just have to trace and cut out each and every single one, and then we're gonna make the magic happen, you guys. I have to say, backing cut files is one of the things I really enjoy doing. It's just a lot of fun. I would imagine if you enjoy fussy cutting, you would enjoy backing cut files. And for those people that say that they hate fussy cutting, but they love to back cut files, I'm like, what are you talking about? You're fussy cutting every time you're backing a cut file. So there is that. So here I am. Now I'm going to try something new. So I'm going to make mini shaker pockets, but not the traditional shaker pocket where there's foam in between so the sequins can move around. I'm not really moving the sequins around a whole lot. But I do the same thing where I trace around and cut it. And then I'm going to grab some tulle, and I'm just going to place it loosely over top of the place where I am working on covering. And then at first I thought I was going to use a marker and kind of cut out around the tulle, just so it wouldn't be such a big piece that I had to cut off later, but I just decided no, that wasn't really working too well. So here's where I grabbed the Vintage Dowry sequins from Spiegel Mom Scraps, and I just put a little bit on top of the tulle here, and they're kind of sticking to my fingers because, you know, I've been backing cut files. I'm very gluey. And then I accidentally hit it, so I've got to fix it and move the things around, which is a pain in the butt, but I didn't want you to think that I just like boom whipped this little thing out. But no, I struggled with it a little bit, because I think that that's one thing that happens a lot on YouTube videos is everything is so edited, and it's edited beautifully, and you get to see the process from start to finish, and everything just works out so great. And you know, one of the things I like to see, maybe not every single mess up, maybe not every single time you're trying to make a decision, but every once in a while, I like to see a little bit of that process where something didn't go as smoothly as you thought it was going to be, or where you changed your mind. That just really helps me as a crafter and as a viewer relate. So I hope that that helps you guys as well. And then, as you can see, I just added glue over top of the cut file edge, just like I normally would if I was just doing this with a normal piece of paper to back it with. And then again, I am adding more washi tape. I did this, I went a little crazy with the washi tape, guys, but I did this because I wanted it to be held together. And then I just go around the edges and trim it, and now I have kind of like this tulle shaker pouch on top of, or within the cut file, and I think that that's really cool. So I decided to do the sequins straight down on the paper on 2 areas, and I also decided to do the tulle balloons on 2 areas. And again, I'm not going to make you watch me do every single little bit of that. So that's where I had a sequin poking out, so I went ahead and trimmed that off. So here's the cut file, completely backed, and as you can see, there is washi tape all over the place. And like I said, just to give it a little bit of stability and just to like to hold it together a little bit, I decided to use this dark blue solid piece of paper. And it is not a cardstock. It's actually a Fancy Pants paper. I think it's the Atwell collection. It's been a little while. It could be the Atwell collection. It is a Fancy Pants paper though. And then here is the little bits of balloons. If you remember earlier, this is from the Stitched Balloons cut file. And the only thing I did was cut out the balloons and deleted the stitches, so I did not have the stitches. And I'm just going to layer these up on top of the background cut file. So remember, that's always something you can do, is to manipulate your cut files. You can also, use more than one cut file at a time. And sometimes I think that we just get bogged down in our own brains because, I would think, okay, I'm using a cut file. This is the cut file I'm using. But no, is it a piece of a cut file you want to use? Like I did with the stitched balloons, totally got rid of the stitching. Or is it something where I want more than one of the cut files? Do I want to adjust the size? Do I want to adjust the shape of it? There's so many possibilities with cut files, and I think sometimes we just get stuck in this, okay, here's the cut file, I'm going to print and cut it out, and that's it. Now, this little balloon right here on the top, I ultimately decided to put it on top of the other two balloons, and then I doubled up my foam so that it physically sits higher than the two balloons underneath of it. So I am also going to take some little foam squares here, and I am just popping up the little bits of the background balloon cut file. And that's just to give it a little bit of dimension. I mean, balloons are like big round things, big rounds, can't even speak, big, round, and bouncy. So I wanted to just give it a little bit of lift off the page as well. I didn't want it to be completely flat. And also, since I chose a solid paper for the background, it definitely does help these really colorful and patterned balloons pop up with the extra pop dots or foam squares. So there we go. And I'm just doing that just about around the entire page because I wanted there to be lift off the entire page, but I also didn't want it to be so lifted, which is the reason why I didn't completely back the thing with pop dots or foam. So there it is. Now, after I just finished wrapping up the last few little dots, and as you can see, I'm just touching to feel where it needs to lift up a little bit. And then we're going to end the layout with some fun little embellishments and a title. So I have these Maggie Holmes carousel thickers, and these are like kind of enamel-y type thickers, and this is the second package I've had of them. That's how much I liked them. And I'm just taking the little stars and the hearts, and I'm also going to use that beautiful black and white bow right there, and just adding little bits throughout the layout. Now, there is a lot going on the cut file. There's a lot of pattern, there's a lot of sparkle, there's a lot of shine, but I still felt like I needed to add a little bit more because, more is more, you guys. And we're just gonna make that work. I decided to go with a gold thicker because of the gold foil and the pattern papers that I've used. And I was trying to decide how bold I wanted the word friends to be. So I had this big thick one, and I also had this thinner one down there. Ultimately, I decided to go with the big thicker font, and that's because I didn't want it to be lost again with all the pattern and fun that's already on the layout here. Now, these bad boys, like thickers cannot get it together. So either with my thickers, either these things stick like ridiculously crazy to the backer paper like this does, where the backer paper kind of pulls up and you gotta peel it off, or the thicker sticker doesn't stick at all. I don't know. It's like they can't get their act together. But do I still buy them? Yes, I do. As a matter of fact, when I was at Creativation, I bought 36 packs of thickers from various Tuesday mornings. Yes, 36 packs of them. I actually had to come home and order another storage thing that I store my thickers in because I had completely run out of space. And I'm actually in the process now of reorganizing the room again because of all the product I brought home. So yeah, and not product that I brought home from the show, just product I brought home from shopping while we were there, because hello, Phoenix has amazing Tuesday morning selections. Amazing. So there we go. So as you can see, I have the little hearts and stars from that carousel thing all set, and then I'm going to use some really old Freckled Fawn puffy letter stickers. And that's going to say fun with friends. And while I was running my mouth about shopping in Phoenix, you did see that I cut off the S off of thanks and added it down here to friends. And I thought that that was perfect to cut off of the word thanks, because I can still use thank you. So it isn't like something where I cut off the S of something where it said like congratulations, where you don't really want to put congratulation on your page. Do you know what I mean? So when you are Frankensteining your thickers, just be kind of careful and knowing what you're going to be using your stuff for. So I grabbed some enamel dots, and these are fun little colors, and I just figured that I would add some throughout the page as well. I just really wanted to bring some life to this background. So I needed my background to be kind of dull because of all the fun that's happening on top of it. But then there was such a stark contrast of kind of like this dull matte thing and then all this super fun on top of it that I felt like I needed to liven up the background again. And I feel like I met my happy medium where I'm happy with how it turned out. And then, of course, you cannot have all of these balloons just floating around. They need to have strings on them. So I do tie up strings. At first I thought I was going to use this blue and white one, but ultimately I decided to go with just some white string. And I tied them on the 5 balloons that I cut out from the Stitch Balloon cut file. I decided not to tie any strings to the balloon border, just because I felt like they were kind of like there in the background, and these balloons were on top and are kind of hanging out. So I just tied it around it. I just knotted it. I didn't do a bow tie or anything like that. And then I trimmed off the one edge, and voila. Now I am just using my deluxe adhesive to make sure that everything adheres down really nice. And as you can see, the Nuvo adhesive did kind of squirt out from behind the letters, and the only thing I did was use a stick pin to just kind of wipe it off just a little teeny bit. Now I also Nuvo adhesived down the balloon strings so that they kind of stay where I had them. There it is, you guys. Please make sure you check out the Confessions of a Paper Addict Etsy shop. The link is going to be on the last slide here. And thanks so much for watching. Please link me to whatever cut files you use from the shop, because I'd love to see what you do. And I will see you guys again really soon for another video right here.